It's January 10th here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour, starting with North Korea calling South Korea a principal enemy. The North's leader Kim Jong-un says he won't start a war unilaterally, but also notes he will not avoid a war against the South. In the meantime, foreign ministers of around 50 countries around the world slammed Pyongyang's apparent arms deals with Moscow. The global economy will slow again for the third straight year in the new year, growing just 2.4%, according to a World Bank forecast. Excluding the pandemic contraction in 2020, the expected growth is set to be the weakest since the 2009 global financial crisis. The world's premier tech show, the Consumer Electronics Show, is back in Las Vegas for its 2024 edition. From AI-powered cars to the world's first transparent TVs, the newest trends and quirky gadgets will be on show throughout the week. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un called South Korea his regime's principal enemy, saying that he won't initiate a war against Seoul, but doesn't mean he'll avoid one. Our An Sung-jin leads us this morning.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has said that Pyongyang has no intention of avoiding a war on the Korean peninsula. The North state-run Korean Central News Agency reported on Wednesday that Kim defined South Korea as a state most hostile towards the North during his visit to munitions factories earlier this week. Pyongyang's leader also pledged to step up military capabilities for self-defense as he said peaceful reunification is impossible. This comes amid heightened tensions and North Korea's supplying of military equipment and munitions to Russia. Foreign ministers from nearly 50 countries, including South Korea, the U.S., and Japan, issued a joint statement opposing North Korea's arms transfer to Russia. The minister's statement reads that the North's export increases the suffering of the Ukrainian people, supports Russia's war of aggression, and undermines the global non-proliferation regime. It added that in return for the North's ballistic missiles, Moscow is providing key technical and military insights to Pyongyang. The statement strongly urged all UN member states to condemn North Korea and Russia's violations of multiple UN Security Council resolutions. U.S. National Security spokesperson John Kirby announced that following several dozen ballistic missile launches earlier, North Korean ballistic missiles were recently fired into Ukraine by Russia on Saturday.
Our information indicates that the Democratic People's Republic of Korea recently provided Russia with ballistic missile launchers and several ballistic missiles. This is a significant and concerning escalation in the DPRK's support for for the Korean Peninsula and the Indo-Pacific region.
North Korea has been under a United Nations arms embargo since it first tested a nuclear bomb in 2006. The embargo prohibits the exports and imports of military weapons to and from the country. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
Artillery drills by South Korean military on land and at sea will resume as a part of its announcement to nullify buffer zone between the two Koreas. But the Defense Ministry says complete termination of the 2018 Inter-Korean Military Pact is still on the table. Our defense correspondent Choi Min-jung explains.
The South Korean military recently announced that the buffer zones set up along the inter-Korean border are no longer effective following North Korea's continued artillery fire off its western coast. The buffer zones were set up in 2018 when the two Koreas signed an inter-Korean military agreement to halt hostilities near the border. First, on the ground, a 5-kilometer buffer zone was established in the north and south from the military demarcation line. Here, artillery fire and regimental or higher-level field maneuvers were suspended. In the maritime buffer zone at sea, all coastal and naval artillery as well as maritime exercises were banned. In the air, a no-fly zone banned aircraft from flying within 20 kilometers of the MDL in the western section of the demilitarized zone and within 40 kilometers of the zone in the east. For the first time in 6 years, South Korea last week conducted artillery drills within the maritime buffer zone in response to the North's artillery firing. The Defense Ministry on Tuesday revealed plans to resume artillery exercises in the buffer zone on land as well.
As you know, due to the September 19th military agreement, there were restrictions on large-scale regiment-level maneuver training and artillery fire training within 5 kilometers from the MDL. So there were some limitations in establishing a readiness posture in border areas with frontline units. I believe that such issues will be resolved and each unit will be able to train in better conditions.
However, when asked if the abolition of the buffer zone means the termination of the Inter-Korean Military Pact, the ministry said this is an issue that requires necessary consultation between relevant ministries.
The Defense Ministry seems to be responding to North Korea's provocations, while the government is thinking there's no need for us to be the first to destroy the military pact, as it's already dead.
The expert added that it would be difficult for Pyongyang to pose a direct threat as long as the South Korean military remains on high alert. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
And a new division in charge of economic and cybersecurity has been set up here in South Korea. The presidential office is confident the new addition will tackle supply chain related issues and also security safety of South Korean people's livelihoods. Our correspondent Oh Soo-young has more.
South Korea's National Security Council has established a new division focusing on economic and cybersecurity. On Tuesday, President Yoon Suk-yeol's office said the nation's top security body created a third deputy position to, quote, take a more organic and systematic response to complex security crises. This comes as Seoul addresses a growing range of new emerging threats to national security, affecting the livelihoods and safety of South Koreans beyond their traditional security concerns posed by North Korea. With supply chain disruptions becoming commonplace along with fierce global competition to master core and emerging technologies, gaining economic security and a lead in science and technology determines both economic prospects and military capabilities. The Yoon administration over the past year has focused on building cooperation in supply chains for materials that are critical for future technologies, as well as research and development in defense and other strategic industries. Under National Security Advisor Chang Ho-jin, Principal Deputy National Security Advisor Kim Tae-ho will continue directing pressing issues in foreign affairs and security, as well as the overall policies of the National Security Council as its Secretary General. Second Deputy Advisor Lee Sung-han will focus on national defense and military issues and oversee the National Crisis Management System. The new third deputy, expected to be appointed in the coming days, will take over emerging security issues. On top of supply chains, export controls and nuclear power plants, two secretaries will assist with policies to promote cooperation on core and emerging technologies, as well as technology protection and the field of cybersecurity. Yoon's office says revamping the council to address such issues is expected to contribute to improving the competitiveness of Korean companies and stabilizing people's livelihoods across the export-dependent economy. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
CES 2024 kicked off in Las Vegas in the last few hours, and at this year's tech show, customized technologies powered by AI are making waves in areas such as automotive, shaping the very concept of mobility beyond simple transportation. Our Shin Ha-young has the details.
The world's largest annual tech show is back again. The 2024 edition of the Consumer Electronics Show, organized by the Consumer Technology Association in Las Vegas, commenced on Tuesday. As widely acknowledged, the key word of this year's CES is artificial intelligence integrated across a variety of industries.
With generative AI in the last year since it's come about, there's a lot of very rapid developments, companies going into new areas. It's like the internet itself. It's not just a technology, it's a fundamentally game-setting, changing technology.
LG Electronics believes AI should bring better customer experience that is more caring.
We all know AI stands for artificial intelligence, but at LG, we would like to redefine it as affectionate intelligence.
With over 400 exhibitors showcasing their latest breakthroughs in vehicle technology, the spotlight at the trade show is on future mobility powered by AI. South Korea's Hyundai Motor Group is participating on its largest scale ever, with both Hyundai Motor and Kia Motors making a noteworthy return after being absent the previous year. Hyundai Motor highlighted its commitment to leading human-centric life innovations. To do so, the company introduced its hydrogen value chain solution covering production and storage, transportation, and utilization. It has also announced its software-defined everything strategy, aiming to establish a mobility ecosystem that caters to users' needs anytime and anywhere through advanced software and AI. With an aim to go beyond the traditional concept of automobiles, Kia Motors unveiled its Platform Beyond Vehicle, or PBV for short, which can be turned into a delivery vehicle or a private office based on users' needs. Meanwhile, South Korea's second-largest conglomerate SK Group built a theme park at CES to highlight how technology can be applied to improve the world and address global challenges such as achieving net zero. One of its affiliates, SK hynix, showcased advanced memory solutions that support generative AI applications. The 4-day event will run until Friday local time, bringing a diverse array of changes driven by AI to be used in daily life. 신하영, Arirang News.
So, artificial intelligence will once again steal much of the attention at this year's CES. In fact, firms participating at the event couldn't agree more that the use and control of AI will navigate the future. Joining us is Professor Park Ji-young from KAIST. Good morning.
Good morning.
Professor Park, artificial intelligence is once again one of the highlights at this year's global tech event. What does that say about AI as a leading future technology?
So CES, you can tell from its name, is an opportunity to showcase everyday gadgets and appliances for the consumers. And AI, which so far has been more of a promise of what the future can be, tries to be the force of now. And going forward, it's imperative that AI find acceptance among the general population as a really useful thing so that it can become the technology of the present, not just of the future.
Right. As my colleague Hayoung gave us a glimpse of this year's event, Professor Bao, I want to know what has caught your attention at this year's CES? Any particular AI models that our viewers may be interested in?
Yeah, so in keeping up with the consumer-driven nature of the show, I've been interested in things that I can imagine bringing into my home. So the products from the world's major players like Samsung, LG, and Sony have become more intelligent and fancier. But there are smaller things that caught my attention. For instance, I saw the magic mirror that can check up on my health when I look into it. And the use of AI in food in the form of robotic chefs and novel recipes seem to be giving out a nice flavor. So for the consumers curious about AI in action, there's plenty offered this year.
Definitely. If I could afford one, I would definitely bring home one of those transparent TVs. Now, based on these models that have come out and that we've discussed so far this morning, would you say this year's edition will be a success? It just kicked off.
Yeah, it's an interesting question because last year's edition took place when we were just getting out of COVID lockdowns, where our lives were put off balance, and so we didn't know what we were supposed to want even. But this year, with a more normalized life, overall, we've gotten back to having a clearer focus. So AI-powered electronics are easier to use, and mobility solutions based on better batteries because we need to move around, work, and enjoy life. So yes, I would say it's a better and more relevant show overall.
Definitely. On top of those transparent TVs, the magic mirrors, there are also AI gadgets looking after not just humans, but also our pets, like dogs and cats. Now, Samsung also introduced its AI homekeeper, Bali, and these are all things that we never thought would actually exist just decades ago, right? What kind of AI models do you expect to come out in the near future? What do you think?
Yes, so pets are now major consumers of electronics, that's for sure. Now, this indicates an important trend, which is better and easier communication and interaction with our pets, the environment, and fellow humans. So what I expect of AI in the future is to improve communication and interaction between people. Now, this may seem too basic, but it gets really forgotten easily when people get excited over fancy headsets that separate people even further. So something non-intrusive but still essential, like a real-time conversation or a physical interaction helper to bring people closer together would be really exciting to see.
Right, let's talk more about where South Korea stands in the global AI race at the moment. The Federation of Korean Industries has released its own list of global AI ranking. And according to that report, South Korea made it to the 6th on the list after the US, China, Singapore, the UK, and Canada. Professor Brown, what is South Korea lacking in the chase to be an AI leader?
So those types of rankings are what they are, but we have to keep in mind that the way things are going in AI, things can change really quickly. So I see this often, and sometimes it's even comical when an AI expert says two things at once and doesn't realize it because they themselves are confused with all the such rapid developments. So in this type of environment, it will be important to become a first mover, which means finding an untouched problem, then pioneering it. So focusing on Korea's scientific and technological prowess on non-traditional tech areas like creative culture and living will be one way that Korea can earn its edge over its rivals.
Definitely. All right. Thank you so much for your time and insightful comments today. You have a great day today.
Thanks for having me.
The World Bank forecast global growth this year will slow for a third year in a row. In fact, the global economy is on course to record its worst half-decade of growth in 30 years. Lee Seung-ja has more.
In its latest global economic prospects report released on Tuesday, the World Bank says global GDP is likely to grow 2.4% in 2024, slowing for a third year in a row. The latest forecast follows 6.2% growth in 2021, 3% in 2022, and 2.6% in 2023. The World Bank cited poverty and debilitating debt levels in many developing countries for the latest forecast. It also said that excluding the pandemic contraction in 2020, growth this year is set to be the weakest since the global financial crisis of 2009. It also added that due to the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic, the war in Ukraine, and ensuing spikes in inflation and interest rates around the world, the first half of the 2020s is expected to be the worst half-decade performance in 30 years. Speaking to reporters, World Bank Deputy Chief Economist Ian Coase said global growth for 2020 to 2024 period would be weaker than the 2008-2009 global financial crisis, the Asian financial crisis of the late 1990s, and downturns in the early 2000s. Moving forward, the World Bank expects global growth in 2025 to rise to 2.7%, marked down from a June forecast of 3% due to anticipated slowdowns among advanced economies. Major economies around the world are also expected to see their growth slow, with the U.S. forecast to grow 1.6%, down from 2.5% last year, while China is also expected to see growth slow 4.5%, down from 5.2% last year. Lee Seung-ja, Arirang News.
3 senior members of Hezbollah were killed in an Israeli drone attack in southern Lebanon, including the commander of the militant group's drone unit. According to Reuters, Tuesday's attack was a targeted drone strike on a vehicle. Hassan Abid al-Hussein Ismail, who is in charge of Hezbollah's drone unit, was reportedly responsible for assaults using drones on northern Israeli settlements since October 7th. According to the militant group, the latest strike increases Hezbollah's casualties to 158. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said Tuesday that the civilian death toll in Gaza is far too high and called for aid to reach Gaza more effectively. And he also called for fewer civilian losses in Gaza and to prevent the conflict from spreading to the wider region.
Good morning, I'm Kim Si-young, and now we turn off to stories from around the world. We begin today in Ecuador, where outbreaks of violence in the country's largest city, Guayaquil, have led to a declaration of a 60-day state of emergency on Monday night local time. Police have also arrested gunmen who on Tuesday took over a local television station during a live broadcast. Guayaquil police confirmed 13 arrests of suspects involved in the hijacking of the Ecuadorian television station TC, where gunshots and yelling were shown on the live feed. President Daniel Noboa has also issued a decree declaring 22 gangs in Ecuador as terrorist organizations. This follows the escape from prison on Sunday of dozens of gang members, including José Adolfo Macías Vela Amar, also known as Vito, the leader of Los Toneros criminal gang. That escape unleashed a wave of violence across Ecuador, including the kidnapping of at least 4 police officers. The world's first private sector moon landing mission has failed to complete its objective as a critical loss of fuel was confirmed by its developers on Tuesday. Astrobotics' Peregrine lunar lander was launched on Monday from Cape Canaveral in Florida, attached to the United Launch Alliance's new Vulcan rocket. While the lunar lander successfully separated from the rocket, Astrobotics soon reported a propulsion system malfunction, with the company later confirming that a propellant leak left Peregrine with no chance of a soft landing on the moon. Peregrine was attempting to become the first U.S. spacecraft to land on the moon since Apollo 17 in 1972. Next, U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin is undergoing treatment for prostate cancer. That's according to officials at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center on Tuesday, who said Austin was hospitalized on January 1st due to complications following a prostate cancer surgery that took place on December 22nd. U.S. President Joe Biden was only notified on Tuesday morning of Austin's condition, 3 days after he spoke with Austin on the phone. The Pentagon chief has been receiving criticism for lack of transparency in notifying the chain of command. The European Union's Copernicus Climate Change Service, known as C3S, said on Tuesday that 2023 was the planet's hottest year on record by a substantial margin. The C3S confirmed that on average, the planet was 1.48 degrees Celsius warmer than the 19th century pre-industrial period before the start of modern-day carbon dioxide emissions. C3S Director Carla Bontempo also said 2023 is very likely to be the warmest year in the last 100,000 years. While the 1.5 degrees Celsius limit set by the Paris Agreement in 2015 has not yet been breached, the C3S said the temperature recorded in 2023 sets a dire precedent.
Good morning. Most of the wet clouds have moved away from the peninsula, and right now the East Coast and Jeju are seeing some wintry precipitation, which will continue through this afternoon. Freezing overnight temperatures made the roads icy and slippery. Take caution behind the wheel and walk with extra care today. Afternoon highs will be much higher for upper regions, but will be similar or lower in southern parts of the Korea. Along with the rise in highs, the ultrafine dust level will go up high again. The capital area and Chungcheong-do provinces will be trapped in dusty air all day today, but the rest of the south will see dust levels boosting in the afternoon. Daily highs are 1 to 8 degrees higher than yesterday. Seoul tops out at 5 degrees Celsius, Gwangju topping out at 7 degrees Celsius. Skies will get sunnier in the afternoon. We can expect much calmer weather through Sunday when a mix of rain and snow is in the forecast in the west of central areas. Then bitter cold air moves in next Monday morning. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
We thank you for watching New Day at Arirang. We'll be back tomorrow for Thursday's edition at the same time, 9 a.m. Korea time.